Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be making a what I eat in a day video, a weekend edition. So I like to start my day with my homemade celery juice that I make every morning, and the recipe is in my cookbook. I like to enjoy this while reading and meditating on the word before starting my day. I drink this on an empty stomach before eating anything for its maximum benefits. Breakfast this morning will be blueberry pancakes, which I will be making using oats flour. I make my flour using my blender. You can make this gluten-free by using gluten-free oats. Next, I'll be crushing some cashews using my grinder attachment from my blender. I will be adding a 1/4 cup of ground cashews to my 1 cup of oats. And next, I will be crushing my flax seeds, also known as linseeds, using the same grinder attachment. Flax seeds are a good source of omega-3s. I will be adding 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds. This is used as a binder or egg replacement. Next, I'll be adding a pinch of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, as well as 1 cup of almond milk, which I will divide into 2. I'll start by adding 1/2 cup. For sweetness and creaminess, I will be adding 1 banana. Make sure that your banana is well ripe so that you can get all the sweetness you need. A sporty and overripe banana would be best. Now that we're done adding everything, we're going to close and blend our ingredients into a nice batter. To smooth out our batter, we are going to use the other half of milk and continue to blend until we get a nice and thick consistency. Now that we've achieved our desired consistency, we transfer our batter into a mixing bowl. To give this flavor and volume, we will be adding 1/2 cup of blueberries. You can choose to add frozen or fresh blueberries. Preheat your non-stick pan and start baking your pancakes. For this size of pancakes, I added 3 tablespoons of my pancake mix. To avoid any sticking and breaking, make sure you wait 2 to 3 minutes before turning over. The recipe makes a single serving of 4 to 6 pancakes. You can add any syrup of your choice. I just chose not to because the blueberries and banana made the pancakes sweet enough for me. And this is the nutritional facts of 1 serving of the whole recipe. For lunch, we will be having tofu spring rolls, which you will need a firm or an extra firm tofu to make this recipe. You want to cut your tofu into thick slices so that it does not break. You'll then need to make a marinade using soy sauce. I'm using about a 1/4 cup of soy sauce for this much tofu, as well as 1 teaspoon of a curry paste. This one is a biryani masala flavored curry paste. You'll then mix your biryani masala flavored curry paste with your soy sauce. Transfer your tofu in the mix and shake it up, making sure that all the pieces are well seasoned and marinated with the sauce. The next step is to make sure that your oven or air fryer is preheated. Line your baking tray with the parchment paper and start transferring your tofu pieces into the baking tray. Make sure not to put any pieces on top of the other. Now that your tofu is ready for baking, put it in your air fryer or oven. Use the baking option and bake at 180 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes on each side. While the tofu bakes, we move on to our next ingredients. I will be making 2 servings of spring rolls, which is 8 spring rolls in total. For this recipe, I will be using 1/2 a small red onion, which I am slicing into 1/2 rings. The first baking cycle of my tofu is done. It's now time to check them and to turn them over for the next cycle. They look nice and crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. I'll then turn them over and prepare them for the next baking cycle to make sure that both sides are nice and crispy on the outside while soft and tender on the inside. It's now time to put the tofu back to the air fryer and continue baking. For the second cycle, I decided to increase my heat to 191 degrees Celsius and kept my time to 5 minutes. While the tofu continues to bake, I will be prepping the rest of our ingredients. And next is a yellow bell pepper. I am using half a yellow bell pepper, which I am slicing into thick slices. And next is half a red bell pepper, which I also will be slicing into thick slices. Using a vegetable peeler, I will then slice up one medium carrot into thin slices. Using the same veggie peeler, I will be slicing up my cucumber into thin slices. Now, the trick here is to avoid the middle part, which is the watery part, because you don't want your spring rolls to be too wet and breaking. So I will be slicing only the outsides, which is the green part, and a little bit of the white part. To my ingredients, I then added half an evo and 2 cups of lettuce. It's now time to prep our rice paper wraps, and you do this by dipping each side of them in lukewarm water, making sure that all the parts are covered with water and well drained before lining them down into your plate and loading them up with your ingredients. We'll be starting with the lettuce as the base. You can then load up your wraps with the rest of your ingredients. There is no specific order in how you place these. Just make sure not to overload your rice paper wraps because you want your spring rolls not to break when you have loaded them up and are closing them off. For some reason, I found myself enjoying this. It was very therapeutic and refreshing for me to do. I then sliced up my evo and made sure that I put the same amount of evo into each of my 8 rice paper rolls. The last part of your spring rolls is to add your air-fried tofu on top, and you can then prepare to roll up your spring rolls. When you roll up your spring rolls, please make sure that you are gentle so that you do not break them, as they are a bit elastic and soft. Feel free to roll up your spring rolls into whatever shape or size that you prefer. Once you are done with your first spring roll, you just continue to do the same steps for the rest of your spring rolls. Doing the first one may feel a bit strange, but as you continue to do so, you will get the hang of it. We then move on to making our dip. I will be using what was remaining from the soy marinade, and to that I will be adding 1 large garlic clove, which I'm going to slice and chop up into very small pieces. To make our sauce low in fat, instead of using peanut butter, I will be using 1 tablespoon of PB2, which is lower in fat. To that, I will add 1 teaspoon of mustard. This is a very strong mustard sauce. You don't want to add too much. Next, I will be adding 1 teaspoon of tahini, which is made from roasted sesame seeds. And now we stir up and mix everything well together. Because the taste was a little bit strong and bitter for me, I decided to add about 1 teaspoon of sweet chili sauce. Stir up and mix everything well together, and your sauce is ready. It's now time to indulge. I invited my taste masters.
Let us taste. Yes. I agree. Anna?
And this is the nutritional information per serving, which is half of the recipe. I later served myself about 1 cup of grapes as a snack, and this is the nutritional information for that serving of grapes. It is now time to start prepping for dinner, and for dinner tonight I will be making mashed potatoes served with steamed broccoli, steamed carrot, and a topping of mushroom gravy. I then started off steaming the broccoli using a microwave and stove steamer that I have received from my granny many years ago. As the broccoli is steaming, I decided to move on to peeling the potatoes. It's now time to start cooking the potatoes. So I started off by rinsing them with water, and then I transferred them to my pressure cooker where I will be adding boiling water. You want to put just enough to cover the potatoes. And then you close your pressure cooker, making sure that the valve is closed, the pressure is kept on. I will be cooking them for 15 minutes using the high heat option. Our last part of the meal is making the mushroom gravy. And for this recipe, I will be using 1 medium red onion, which I am going to thinly slice into half rings. I will then chop up about 5 spring onions into very small pieces, and I will also be using about 6 garlic cloves, which I am going to thinly slice as well as chop up into very small pieces. And lastly, I will be slicing up my mushrooms. I like to use brown mushrooms because of their texture. I am not a big fan of the white button mushrooms because they tend to be very mushy and watery. You do not need to slice your mushrooms into very thin slices. They will shrink and become small while cooking anyways. Our potatoes are now done cooking. It's now time to transfer them into a bowl. It is now time to make the mushroom gravy, which I will make using the saute mode of my pressure cooker. I will not be using any oil to saute my mushrooms and onions, as the mushrooms will release their own liquid to do so. While we wait for the mushrooms to release their liquid, it's now time to start seasoning and mashing our potatoes. I will be using about half a teaspoon of each of my seasoning, starting with onion powder. And now we mash our potatoes into our desired consistency. Our mushrooms have started to release their liquid, and this has allowed our onions and garlic as well as the mushrooms to nicely saute and to brown. Now we will move on to seasoning our mushrooms and onion. I will use my spice mix, which is my Robertson spices that I've mixed into this jar. I will use 1 tablespoon of this seasoning as well as the Raja spices. To thicken my mushroom gravy, I will be using 2 tablespoons of this maizena corn flour mixed with 1 cup of water. This will give me a nice and thick mushroom gravy consistency. To give this a little bit of flavor, I will be adding about 1 teaspoon of the Nando's Mozambique paprika sauce, as well as 1 teaspoon of Mrs. Ball's chutney sauce. Dinner is now served and ready to be indulged. And here are the nutritional facts of a quarter serving of the dinner.